In this deadly items investigation, we are opening the files on 6 completely ordinary objects that became instruments of death in the hands of the most notorious serial killers. Evidence number 5 will make you question everyone who smiles at you. And the final piece of evidence will make you terrified to look in your own mirror. When you see someone walking down the street with a broken arm wrapped in a medical cast, what is your first instinct? Pity? The desire to help? That is exactly what Ted Bundy relied on. Ted Bundy didn't look like a monster. He was handsome, educated, and highly charismatic, but he knew his victims, young women, were naturally cautious. How did he bypass that caution? By using this fake arm cast. He would wear it, walk slowly, and deliberately drop his keys or books right next to his car. When a kind-hearted woman stepped forward to help him, driven by pure humanity, everything changed. The moment she got close to his car door, this cast transformed from a symbol of weakness into a solid club he used to strike her head violently before dragging her inside. A familiar sound, isn't it? A maintenance tool found in almost every home. But in apartment 213 in Milwaukee, this sound didn't mean fixing a cabinet or hanging a picture. It meant a gruesome end. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee monster, suffered from a sick, pathological loneliness. He didn't want his victims to ever leave him. He wasn't just looking to kill, he was looking for permanent companionship. While his victims were under the influence of heavy sedatives, unable to move or scream, Dahmer would pick up this ordinary power drill. He would approach their heads and drill small holes directly into their skulls. He would take a syringe filled with hydrochloric acid and inject it straight through those holes into their brains. He was trying to create obedient zombies who would never leave his apartment. In the mid-1980s, locked doors in California no longer meant safety. A terrifying phantom was breaking into homes at night, sparing no man, woman, or child. There were no fingerprints, no specific weapon. The only clue was this: a regular Avia sneaker, size 11.5. Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, wore these shoes during his brutal home invasions. Detectives would arrive at a crime scene to find mutilated bodies, blood covering the walls, and in the middle of the chaos, the print of this sneaker, stamped in the victim's blood. This shoe wasn't just a piece of clothing, it became a signature of death, the nightmare that every citizen in California feared waking up to find printed on their bedroom floor. The smell of hot soup on cold winter nights. It's comforting. But in one London apartment building, the smell coming from Dennis Nilsen's flat wasn't soup at all. Nilsen murdered young men and kept their bodies in his apartment. But when the bodies began to rot and space ran out, he brought out this large, boiling pot. He would dismember his victims and later use this pot on a regular kitchen stove in connection with his crimes. He boiled human flesh for hours until it melted off the bone so he could flush the remains down the toilet. When neighbors complained about the unbearable stench, he calmly smiled and told them it was just a bad smell coming from a nearby chicken restaurant. Dorothea Puente, a sweet grandmother with white hair and prescription glasses, running a small boarding house for the elderly. She spent her days tending to her beautiful flower garden using this exact garden shovel. A picture of pure innocence, but behind that warm smile hid a greedy demon. This sweet grandmother was coldly putting poison into the food of her helpless tenants. When they took their last breath, she stole their social security checks to spend on herself. And in the middle of the night, when everyone was asleep, she would take her favorite shovel and dig shallow graves in her garden. The police found 7 full bodies carefully buried right beneath her beautiful blooming flowers. A small sponge soaked in bright colors, a tool used to paint wide smiles and bring joy to sick children in hospitals. It was carried by a respected man in his community who volunteered as Pogo the Clown. His name was John Wayne Gacy. Gacy always used to say, "Clowns can get away with murder." And this sponge touched his face every single day. It was the mask that hid one of the most bloodthirsty psychopaths in American history. While he was making children laugh during the day, he was strangling young men at night. When police searched his home, they didn't just find clown props. They found 29 rotting bodies, stacked on top of each other in the crawl space right under the wooden floorboards he walked on every day. A medical cast, a power drill, a boiling pot, a shovel, and a shoe. Things made for living, used for dying? Now, look around your room one more time. Are you absolutely certain the objects you own are hiding an innocent past? Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 items made your blood run cold? And don't forget to subscribe to Deadly Items, because the dark stories are far from over.